meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here.
Director Howard.
Here.
Director Duarte.
Here.
Vice President Monty. Here. Here. Okay, so just checking to see. We have a special announcement tonight, and we are waiting for our scholarship winner. So This is exciting because this is the first time that we've awarded this scholarship, and so we're really thrilled that he and his family are here today. Okay, it is my pleasure this evening that we get to present this $2,000 check to our award, the first recipient of the Dublin San Ramon Services District, James B. Conan Scholarship. We are welcome to Pat Conan's here joining us today, and that was Jim's widow, Pat. We're glad that you're here. And we also have a couple of members of the selection committee. We have, I don't know if Janet's here, Janet Lockhart, and the current executive director of DPI, Dublin Partners in Education, and then also the contributing reporter to the San Ramon Express and online college instructor for University of Phoenix, Rosalind Rogoff. And then somebody who couldn't be here tonight was DSRSD Supervisor of the Year and Operations Supervisor Levi Fuller, because he's attending his son's graduation. So I'd like to thank staff for their extraordinary coordination of this effort. And first of all, we're going to go a little bit about Jim. Jim was a board member here at DSRSD and loved by many people, not only here in DSRSD, but also in the Dublin community and all the communities that he served in. He was one of my mentors, and he and his wife were always very near and dear to my heart. And he was a board member from 1992 to 2000, and he was instrumental in developing water service for the Doherty Valley, bringing recycled water to Tri-Valley, expanding water, wastewater, recycled water services to East Dublin, and expanding the regional wastewater treatment facility. In addition, Jim sat on the Zone 7 agency board. He also served on the Alameda County Special Districts, American Society for Quality, Alameda County Mosquito Abatement, and also the California Special Districts, California State Association. He was a lifelong learner, and I was always amazed at how much he absorbed over the years. He had earned 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and a doctorate degree. He was a U.S. Army reservist for 30 years. He graduated from the U.S. Army War College, the Air War College, and the Industrial College of Armed Forces, rising to the rank of colonel. Mr. Conan, Colonel Conan, I should say, died in 2012, so the scholarship was established to honor his public service in the water resources field and to inspire young people to follow in his footsteps. I think today I'm equally thrilled that our winner of this scholarship, his name is Justin Tran. And Justin has been a member of the National Honor Society since 2012. He's been a camp counselor at Walker Creek Outdoor School since 2011. He plans to study geophysics at the University of California at Santa Barbara. He served as captain of his football and track teams, and also was vice president of the gardening committee of the club. And he took 22 advanced placement classes during his high school career and has a cumulative GPA of 4.05. Justin, you are just so we are so excited that you are the first recipient of this, because you just, now all the kids are going to have high standards. One of the judges, a good friend of Mr. Conan's for 30 years, said she felt that Justin seemed to be channeling Jim Conan's love for the outdoors, and seemed to be thinking the way Jim would have thought, and seemed to be expressing his thoughts and opinions in the way Jim would have, circling around a subject and then making a point. DSRSD created this scholarship not only to honor Jim, who devoted many of years of his life to managing and protecting public water supply and other vital resources, but to also inspire young people to study related fields. So, Justin, I'd like to have you come up, and we will be giving, and I would like the board to come out. And also, if we could have Pat come up. This is like one of the favorite things. This is Justin, and this is Pat. This is Mr. Martin, Georgine, and Pat Howard. And this is Rich Halpern.
Okay, one second.
Okay, hold on.
Look this way, 1 second. 1, 2, 3, and there's the official.
Money.
We don't do the big cardboard one. We're trying to be green. Okay.
Okay, great. So now what you get to do is come back next year and share with us your exciting adventures in school. And you'll always be remembered as it. You're the foundation here of the environmental services. So please make sure you're never a stranger. You're always welcome. You're part of our family. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay, so we're on to public comment. Any public comment at this time? Okay, next, under reports.
As President of EDSA, members of the board, I'll be brief tonight. You'll notice under committee reports, the DSRSD Zone 7 FL liaison meeting is listed there, which was held on May 22nd. As you know, with these liaison meetings, with the number of agencies involved, it takes a while to get the notes prepared. I reviewed a draft of it, but the final was not quite ready for prime time, so we'll get that to you when it is ready. Secondly, we may need to ask you to hold a special board meeting on Tuesday, July 9th. It's related to a LAFCO matter. Specifically, special districts have a seat on LAFCO, and there is a seat that will be up for election. Given the timing of this election, and given when the candidates will be known, the only way I can see for the board to decide how to cast our ballots will be to have that special board meeting on July 9th. So if you could sort of please tentatively put that on your schedule, hopefully we'll have a quorum available at that time. More information to follow about that. And there's been no correspondence to or from the board since your last board meeting.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. Any agenda management?
I think we can go straight through.
Straight to approval of the minutes. Okay,
I'd like to move for approval of the minutes.
great. I hear a motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Okay, consent calendar. Consent calendar. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're on to board business 9A, public hearing to adopt the capital improvement program CIP, 2-year budget for fiscal years ending 2014 and 2015.
President Benson, members of the board, the capital improvement budget, the 2-year budget has been through the committee process. You've all seen the details over the last few months. Since the last time you saw it, we made one significant adjustment. That is, we pulled the urban water management plan up update. We have to do every 5 years forward from the third year of the 10-year plan into this 2-year CIP budget. We have to do it every 5 years, and we looked at the plan, and they approved it in 2011, so we thought, oh boy, we got time. It turns out it's 2010, last one was turned in, it took a year to get it approved. But it's 2015 that's due, and there wouldn't be enough time to finish it. It's a very important document because it allows the city development section to decide if there's enough water for specific changes to their general plan as they move forward with their planning. So it's an important document to get certified and turned in because it forms the foundation of all environmental work. It's not new money, it's just money. As you may recall, in the CIP budget overall, fund limits and cash flows are good for all the funds, with the potential exception of 610 is a little bit below the target level in the first year of the budget, substantially gains back the second year budget and beyond that. That's primarily because we did recycle water project, and we have the new metering project that we have to do. That's our cash register, so we really need to do it, but the fund is healthy and it's slightly below projection. Projected requirements of the board. The last point I'd make is that when the board accepts this CIP, you really are taking 4 actions. 1, you're approving the total project budgets. 2, the work can start in any year it needs to, we're not restricted. But your financial control is the fund limit. Total expenditures in each fund can't exceed the fund limit that's established in the 2-year CIP budget that carries over, you'll see in the operating budget. And finally, it authorizes the general manager to file the appropriate exemptions for those projects that are exempt under the state. And with that, Steve DeLight, who did the heavy lifting, is in the audience. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Okay, any questions? The public hearing. All right. Let's see here. Public hearing. I'd like to open this public hearing for the Dublin San Ramon Services District CIP 2-year budget for fiscal years ending 2014-2015. The board receives the staff presentation. Board members ask the staff questions related to presentation. And I've opened the hearing, and I'd like to take public comments.
I move to close the public hearing.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that is closing the public hearing. And any other discussion?
Just thoroughly, I move approval of the item as presented to us by staff.
Okay, do I hear?
Second that motion.
Second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved, no nays.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to 9B. 9B is public hearing to adopt operating budgets for fiscal years ending 2014 to 2015.
Thank you, President Benson and members of the board. The budget was presented to you in detail at the May 21st meeting. The only significant changes since that meeting were the inclusion of the $1.8 billion in TIC repayment that we discussed at that time. And we eliminated the transfer from the Water Rate Stabilization Fund to the OPEB fund that is no longer needed due to that TIC repayment being used to pay off the water fund's OPEB liability. And again, I'd like to acknowledge Herman Chan, who's here tonight, and John Archer, who really had the biggest workload in putting the budget together, and we're available to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions?
We really vetted this last time, and I'm quite pleased. No questions?
Okay, any questions?
I think the staff has done an excellent job, and we, as Director Howard said, we did review this extensively last week.
Good. All right, so at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. Any public comments? Oh, and I solicit a motion.
That we close the public hearing?
Okay. Second for Director Duarte. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Public hearing closed, and I think we're all set.
I'd like to move the item as presented to us.
Okay. Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Okay, we're on to C, 9C, approve the fourth edition of the district's 5-year strategic plan, sustaining success, FY 2014 through 2018.
Yes, President Benson and members of the board, I'll try to be as brief as my two preceding colleagues. Thank you very much. You have before you the fourth addition to the current sort of version of our strategic plan. This document you've seen a number of times over the course of the last 6 months, in fact in 15 separate public meetings. I think it accommodates all your input and certainly will serve as a roadmap for the next 5 years for the district. As I've said to you a number of times, I think this is going to be a period of time where we're gradually going to transition from a growth organization to an organization that's focused on operation and maintenance, and I think this plan will do a nice job in guiding us along the way. So thank you very much for that, and I would recommend your approval.
Okay, do we hear a motion? Okay, motion. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. So moved. One down. Okay, so now we're on to, let's see here, 9D. Presentation on asset management program for the wastewater collection system.
President Benson, members of the board, I'd like to start off with a couple of overall comments on the asset management program. And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge Gary Lee and did the heavy lifting and get this program going and delivered to the FOD. He wasn't able to be here. He's got a family issue he's had to deal with this last week. The collection system portion of the asset management program is the first item to be deployed. And that's really because of the availability of the historical data and also the proven methods for collecting data and analyzing data as it relates to the collection system. I'd say we're about 80% way to full deployment. Field operations is using the program right now, and we're really dealing with deploying the right electronic gadgets and equipment that forms in the field and kind of working out the kinks and all that. Also, once we get the first round of comprehensive data completed over the next year or so, we'll be able to make a final assessment of the methods we're using for refining the initial rankings and everything. We'll be able to make refinements from there, and at that point, I think we'll be pretty solid and be moving into the future and be always updating something pretty much in place. Where you're going to get a presentation from at FOD is primarily the changes in using the system as a management planning tool, and their practices for doing the maintenance of the collection system. We estimate that the changes in their methods is probably, in a conservative way, in the same $65,000 in the first year of operations. That's basically in staff time because they're going to be able to deal with things more efficiently. And that will, if you think about the FOD and the collection system, their collection system is growing and they're not getting any new staffing, so it's not like it's found resources. They let them keep up with what's going on out there. You'll still talk about the TV cleaning schedule. One of the efficiencies we've gained is we're assessing the tapes and sewers in the office after they collect the data, so people in the field don't have to wait for the person in the trailer to try to assess and grade everything that's out. And also been able to reduce some hotspot locations. We've added manhole condition assessment and grease assessments as they're doing their cleaning to help us gather data and be able to refine the maintenance practices. That savings though on operations is important. Efficiency is important. The real bang for the bucks will come if over the longer term we're able to assess low-cost CIP projects that will reduce cost of operation and or increase the life of particular pipes. And more importantly, we'll get a more realistic measure of the value of the facilities and the rate of depreciation. So we're financing the most efficient replacement models we can that affect long-term financing. Long-term value of this program will be recognized over the next few years as we refine that data. So with that, turn it over to Dan to introduce his folks.
All right, thanks, Dave. You know, traditionally, asset management programs have been used to budget and plan for replacing infrastructure when it wears out, reaches the end of its useful life. There's a lot of different things that have been used to help evaluate that. In fact, there have been a lot of improvements in recent years where we're looking at things like condition assessments and consequences of failure. So we've done a lot of improvements, and I think what you're going to hear tonight is something that we're doing pretty uniquely here at DSRSD. And our staff is going to tell you about how they've also applied that to operations and maintenance. And tonight we have with us Jim Dryden, who's our field operations supervisor. Darren Winton is a lead water wastewater systems operator in field operations. And also Aaron Johnson, who is guru of everything GIS and engineering related in our engineering department. And together they're going to explain what they've been able to accomplish. Guys?
Slide real quick. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
So, since you guys were so quick at the other business, we're actually going to change this up and we're going to do training. So, get ready and go outside. No, really, so what I'm going to talk about first is I'm going to give a little bit of background on the data, the applications that we use, where that data lived, and where it's going. In the past, we had data in a few different places. It was in our maintenance management software. There was data on paper. There was video on VHS tapes, on DVDs, in the CCTV truck, in field ops, and in storage there. And so what we wanted to do, and some of you may remember this from a couple years ago, we did a presentation on where we were going, and we have arrived at that point. We're really excited about it. So, just to give you kind of an overview again, and for some of you who weren't there, the data it's basically made up of three parts. You have your input, you have the centralized data storage, and you have your outputs. The inputs consist of manual inspections. As Dave mentioned, we started doing those. The guys are taking grease inspections, and we're using that data. CCTV inspection, of course. We spent a lot of time looking through the information we have to put pipe age and pipe information in our GIS. We used information from SSOs and pipe hydro cleaning. As far as the schedule the pipes were on, when the last time they were cleaned, so on and so forth. And what we've done is we've taken all that information and we've brought it into a centralized location. It's in a central database where it can be accessed by many different applications across our network. Mainly our CMMS, which is our computerized maintenance management software, which is called Lucity, you'll see in a second, and our GIS, which provides a lot of input into that maintenance management software. Tonight, Jim and Darren are going to take you through a little bit of what they do with the data. So they're going to talk about the hydro cleaning schedule, the CCTV inspection schedule, and they're going to use the Lucity web-based application to show you that, which is what is a really nice output that we've implemented here at the district, and the guys are really excited about using it. The data itself, like you heard before, can be used for replacement costs estimates. It can be used to determine when a pipe is going to fail. It can be used, same data can be used for maintenance and operations. We spend a lot of time providing maintenance and operations the ability to better manage the system with less resources. In the future, that same data is going to help us refine our replacement cost estimates, help us determine when pipes are going to fail, perhaps even help us change the life of the pipe. Its probability of failure can be extended if we have better data. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Darren to give you guys start the show on what they're doing. Any questions?
How long have you had the software?
The maintenance management software? We started with, it used to be called George Butler's GBA Master Series. We had it back in the 90s, and it was mainly just used for the sewer only. We use it for all of our facilities now. This version of it, we implemented the web-based probably 2 years ago. We started working on it. This is the best version they've put out so far. They kind of were on the bleeding edge of things for a couple years, and so it's really gotten to a good spot where it's very useful, more user-friendly, and like I said, the guys are excited about using it, and it gives them a lot of opportunity to, which you'll see, to get to know the system and have a better idea of what's in the program.
All right. What I'm going to talk to you quickly about is what we used to do and how we used to go and do our hydro cleaning. This is an overview of our collection system in the district. What we used to do was on a 4-year cycle, we would clean it from the top left here area, and we would pull it down to the wastewater treatment plant. And that would take us about 4 years to go through and clean the whole system. And then while we were doing that, we were on an 8-year CCTV cycle where we would go and TV all the pipes and then gather that information. We were doing work in areas that historically we would know as some of the operators out in the field that we didn't need to do work in, but because of the way we were doing basically just work from left to right, kind of like the way you paint a bridge, isn't always the most efficient way. If you're standing there and the paint's good, why keep on going through and painting it? You can skip along. So this is just to give you a little history on where we started before we started this program. We started thinking there's got to be a better way of doing this with all the information that we've gathered through the years on the CCTV, so we can go in, look at our pipes and go, wait a minute, we could leave these a little bit further out. And then Jim's going to go and talk about where we've gone to since this schedule and how we're going about making these decisions on we want to push some of this maintenance out.
All right, Darren's going to drive. I'm going to read off my notes in my outline. Asset management program for hydro cleaning and CCTV work. What you see is a hydro map for 2012. You see different colors on it. This is set up on the basin level. I'm sorry, it's not the basin level. No.
Say, Nancy, could you maybe dim the lights a little bit? Just maybe those colors might jump out.
They do fade in a bit. All right. This is what we used to do was, as Darren explained, we cleaned the system by basins, and we brought it from the north down to the treatment plant from the east over. This basin map has, it's a sample basin map. It's all, what it is several pipelines, a network of pipelines that maybe run down to one bigger pipeline. We call that a basin. It's several pipelines branching out and come down to the main trunk and then head down to the treatment plant. So we're not doing it that way anymore, except every 6 years we will go through and do a basin area, because we have it broken up now into 1-year cycles, 2-year cycles, 3-year cycles, and 6-year cycles. 1-year cycles obviously being the worst pipes we have in the system that have been rated on this program that we have. And it's all based on the previous CCTV data that we've had. This map shows us now that our work for 2012. The red lines are the 1-year, what we'll call trouble spots, for lack of a better term right now. Those are the pipes needing the most frequent work and cleaning, and they're loaded with roots and grease and other things. The blue pipes are going to be the 2-year scheduled pipes. We go to those every 2 years. The purple are going to be 3-year pipelines. They're not as bad, not as in need of constant repairs or maintenance. And the green, typically those pipes don't have anything wrong with them.
They have good flow, nothing hangs up in them, no grease problems, no root problems. So that way we can put those out every 6 years, and the system then will get cleaned every 6 years. Every basin will get cleaned every 6 years in a roundabout, in a 6-year pattern. It's all based on the old CCTV data that we had and the new TV data that we're collecting now. It's based on PACP method, which is a national known, or NASCO, national known recognized basing for, what's the word? Anyway, we'll pass. I'll come back to it. For grading the pipe. Thank you very much. Anyway, so what this does for us, so it makes us work smarter. The biggest thing is, that's the biggest benefit I think we're seeing out of it, is we're able to go to the pipes that need our attention, need our work, and need the cleaning. And it's making us work smarter and prevent sanitary sewer overflows in the long run. That's our goal. We don't want any of those, but and I think it's working so far. Based on that, just this year, we went out very early when we started cleaning in January, and one of the first basins we went to, the cleaning crew pulled up the manhole and it was surcharged already, ready to overflow. But we stopped it. We got there before it overflowed and saved an incident. That's just one example of this program hitting the spots that needed to be hit this year. And since then, we've had several root issues come up where, again, the lines are beginning to surcharge behind the roots and the grease buildup. And again, that proves that the program seems to be getting the areas that we need to be in, not the areas that are wide open and we're cleaning just to be on the schedule. The criteria for rating the pipes, some of this has been gone over already, but I'll hit on it again. This historical CCTV data, overflows and observations, the age of the pipe, probability of failures, proximity to a water of the state, and then the risk factors, and then all the grease observations that we have. We're going to go to a sample work order here now, and the technology we have right now is for FOD staff. They have the ability now, which they never had before, to create our own work orders, to close out the work orders in the field. We have the ability to create corrective work orders. When we find a problem out in the field, when we're cleaning, CCTVing, we see a problem, we can create a work order right there on the spot. We have the access to look up the history of the pipelines while we're out there in the field now. We have access to electronic maps and the work orders. We can also pull up the maps from the work orders now out there. All this in an effort to turn green and get away from all the paper maps and the updates and all that, which is costly and not very green. We also have what I like is the remote access to the CCTV videos. From the field, we can pull up the old videos and see exactly what we're trying to clean. And when we are going in and doing the roots, we can pull up the old video and make sure that we're getting the right spots. As this video here will show, we're coming up on a root with a chain flail, and we'll get as much of that root taken out of there as possible. We may not cut it exactly clean, but we'll get. The before picture was really, it was a blockage. It was a true root blockage, and we've been in there once already, but now we've got the action shots. I kind of like the action shot. You guys got to bear with me. I like that. What we get out of this is we also get to do the manhole observations now, which is something we hadn't been doing in the past. I mean, if a ring was popped up, we would definitely report that. But now we're able to go with the motion tablet here remotely out there. With the cleaning truck, we can take this out. We can take pictures. We can get GIS, record the grease observations, any blockages, invert elevations. Invert elevation obviously is pipeline, the bottom of the pipeline, so we know we're getting plenty of flow and keeping things moving. And we get an overall manual condition, which we're able to record on this device. What it means for FOD right now is we're working smarter. It's a change in the way we've done things in the past. We're doing segmental cleaning now as opposed to basin cleaning, so we're not doing a whole basin now, we're maybe doing a pipe or two in that basin, depending on the color code that we saw earlier. We may not get as much footage done, but we're getting the important footage done, is what's happening now. Like I said, we've come across several root issues just since January and been able to go in there and take care of the roots and clean the lines up so that we're preventing the SSOs on that. The other big plus is we have access to the historical data, and it's all in a central location for everybody in the district to use by all divisions. And the main goal here is not to have any sewer on the streets. And that concludes what I've got. Anybody have any questions? I'll field them.
Another thing too is to complement what Jim was saying, and talk about the difference. When we pulled from top to bottom and left to right, we could just keep on doing our work and keep on pulling everything down. Now that we're bouncing around all over, the guys are in need of different equipment. One of the things we're updating to is a combination truck, because what happens is you may shoot a 300-foot line, pull back a bunch of debris, you can't leave it there, because that's just going to create another problem, so the guys have to vacuum it up. So that's why one of the things we've got to have to update our equipment and our department.
I just want to add one thing, actually two things. So, I want you guys to really think about the fact that it's one thing to have a tech person like myself out here looking around, navigating, showing things. It's another when you have, don't take this wrong way, operations folks using the tools, using the technology. And I just want to say I'm really proud of these guys for taking that on. And then also, I think another thing that needs to be pointed out is that we also wouldn't be here without IT's help at the infrastructure that they put in. And so I think that's really important.
Good partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Question?
On your data collection, everything is done by your observation, the TV camera, or through a tablet?
Yes.
And recorded that way?
Yes.
And you're doing all this in-house with no increase in staff?
No increase in staff. It's tough.
You'd be
It's
tougher.
It's supposed to take us 6 months, but it's taking us a little longer than that right now.
It's obviously making you more efficient, so that's great.
And it is a new way of doing things, so it does tend to slow us down a little bit. We're trying to get used to it.
What's a rough estimate of what you invested in the software? And I assume we have our own hydro cleaning equipment and the TV cameras.
As far as the software, there's not really any increased cost in the software, because what we've done to get the web mapping application, we traded licenses that we weren't using for the mapping. So there wasn't as much. There may have been a small increase, but it wasn't large. If we were able to leverage things that we already had, then maybe we weren't using as much as extensively, just due to changes in technology.
Anytime you get the field operations people to say that the software is user-friendly, you really accomplish it.
Well, we're working on that. And we're not experts by any means. We've been working it 6 to 8 months probably. We want to get it mastered before we send it out to all the guys. But they'll be taught, once we have it mastered, we'll let them, let them have access to it. They have access now. A couple of them are on it, but it's a learning curve.
Sounds like you're up to a very good start.
Okay, thank you.
President Benson, if I could just offer a couple comments and compliments to number one, to the 3 folks that were here, but also to everybody that works in Jim's group and with Aaron and IT as well that pulled this together. I remember when they came to me, it was probably 2007 and 2008, we're talking of this as a concept, and I kind of appreciated what they were going to have to go through and the effort they were going to have to put into this, but they wanted to go through it. And this has all been, not only do they do all this stuff in-house right now as they go, but they developed all of this this in-house. We had a very little bit of consulting help at the beginning to bring in some of the asset management terminology and stuff, but we basically did it with in-house staff, and I think what that's really done, you talk about the strategic planning transitioning to to a maintenance operation-focused organization. This is a case where these guys have done it in-house, and it's theirs, they own it, and I think this is definitely not going to be a tool that's going to sit on a shelf. This is a tool that they wanted, that they developed, and that they're using, going forward. So I think it's going to be a thing that will belong at the district. And what you saw today was just the collection system. We're starting to do the water system. We're starting to do Derwa. We're starting to do Lavma. And we're starting to work on the wastewater treatment plant using these same kind of techniques. Now, the way you assess the condition on a clarifier is different than putting a TV camera in a sewer, but the underlying concepts are still the same, and we're applying those to everybody. So thank you, everybody that was here for it. I think it's a great thing for everybody from a long time.
You guys look excited too. All right, well, thank you so much. Okay, we're on to 9E. Discuss the guidelines for conducting district business policy.
Yes, President Benson, members of the board, let me open this up. This is really a sort of a general open-ended discussion that I'm looking for some input from the board here. This board correspondence, board guidelines, and reverse my agenda packet, is really this bound document that you've all been given. I think you have a copy of the drawer in front of you, unless somebody has pilfered it. If that's the case, let us know. But this document's 4 years old, and really its purpose is twofold. It's a balance of providing you as directors and elected officials information that'll help you carry out your duties and basically how the board culturally runs the business of the district. But it's equally valuable to the public, to assist the public in understanding how you do it. So if the public wishes to participate in the process, they understand and can follow how to contact you, how to participate in public hearings, how to get items on the agenda, etc. As you know, we review all our policies every 4 years, so this one is naturally coming up this year for review, and this is the opening discussion. I thought since it's such a high overarching policy that we would start with a discussion at the board level. Normally on some of these things, as you know, with policies, we just go directly to a particular committee first if it's fairly straightforward. But this is pretty high level, and there's been a number of new folks that are on the board since this was last written. So I thought we'd give you an opportunity to say what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, what was working, what was not working so well. And then with that as input, we're going to actually begin the discussion of changes to this with the External Affairs Committee tomorrow morning. We won't finish that discussion tomorrow morning. It'll probably take some time, but I think speaking for the committee and myself, we'd love to hear your inputs on that. Staff took a shot at a few things, notes that we've gathered over the years. We consolidated those in attachment number 1. Think of these as things to start your discussion tonight. You may agree with them, you may not agree with them, and we certainly are, it's certainly appropriate to add more to that list for consideration. So with that, I don't know if you would like any more background on any of the ones that we listed in attachment number 1, or if you just individually want to dive in and say, what you think about the policy and how it can be made better.
Okay, let's start. Pat, do you have any?
Well, let's see. No, I don't have anything to add. I'm really anxious in external affairs to get started working on the concept of our police system and what we think we need to change and anything that, but anyway, just delve into that area.
Okay. And what specifically is there any?
Well, just, the whole idea, do we need the same number of committees that we have now? Do we combine some?
How often should they meet?
Yeah, they're very useful. They, we learn a lot in the committee. Keeps these meetings shorter. They're very informal. You can get more information out of it. But then the public doesn't see us as much in committee, even though they are public meetings, but they're daytime meetings generally. And so just the idea of, do we want to keep the committee meetings the same structure they have now, or do we want to change? That'll be interesting to work on.
Okay. Good. Rich?
It's actually kind of ironic we have the asset management for this, is as staff, the people we hire, start to convert the committee system, was extremely important when we were dealing with a vast number of extremely fast-moving, extremely complicated technical issues. I certainly saw great value of it. I still see value in certain committees, great value of it in the heydays, in the 2000s. I think now a couple of things are happening. We're dealing with more pro forma, too strong a word, but more issues that aren't necessarily as controversial or as board-driven. It certainly can be dealt with at the board level, I think, without having to have a second meeting about it. The committee meetings, I think, are, we're extremely transparent as an agency, and I think that's the place that probably we're the least transparent. Not on purpose or to hide anything, it's just a definition of having an 8:30 meeting or a 5:30 meeting. We have a hard enough time getting the public to engage at the board level. And then finally, kind of, we've almost put ourselves in a position, now that we're televising the meetings, I feel that we need to have more substantive, I won't say longer, because I don't want to meet for meeting's sake or have a length of meetings for meeting's sake, but I think doing more business with this body, because this body is televised, can only be good for us and our relationship with our community. Other than that, I think this body operates well. The guidelines are pretty simple. We try to keep the rules, not very rule-based. Still think, at least at this point, name committees maybe a simple interim fix is some. Right now it's kind of we opt out of a committee. So it's by definition a new item goes to a committee, then the board. Maybe we can come up with some sort of mechanism that a new item goes to the board unless there's a consensus that it's complicated enough that it should be baked to the committee level first. Just kind of reverse the flow. Just one idea. I'm sure we have good people in external affairs, and I'm sure you guys will hash out some good ideas.
Anything else?
That's enough for now. Let me think more.
Okay. Director Duarte?
Well, it's obviously very important that we conduct our business as a board in what I would call an efficient and effective manner. Anything that we could do to improve that process is something we should be trying for. And updating these guidelines is obviously the first step of that. I haven't been around that long to understand, to see what you folks went through during those years of rapid growth, but knowing that the district is transitioning into a maintenance and or operational type of agency, it kind of begs the question that we are going to have to rethink the way we're doing certain things in some of these committee meetings or committee formats are not necessarily the best use of our time or the best application of how we can provide direction to the staff. So I'm all for taking a new look at that and seeing if we can do it a little bit better.
Okay. Vice President.
Ironically, when I was first elected, this is one of the things that I wanted to do away with. And then I discovered how useful they were. Because as you've all commented, when we get into a committee meeting with a difficult topic, it's important for us to be able to discuss it at length and not be hampered by somebody that wants to go home and go to bed by 11 o'clock. That being said, we are, however, transitioning, and maybe not this time, but 4 years down the road, we'll be ready to let go of all the committees. I think we probably have a few too many. I think they could be consolidated a little bit. You're going to still need people that are, as with the city, appointed to go to LAVMA or DERWA or whatever other agency is out there, so the committee structure, or maybe I should say what the committee will do, will change, but you're still going to have people appointed to those other agencies. I would hate to see us do away with the committees entirely, and maybe it needs to be just the technical committees, personnel when it's time to go over the contracts, log mow or wastewater when there's something major happening. I think we go overboard in the things we refer to committee. I think there's a lot of things that could come directly here and don't even need to be discussed at committee. So I do think there needs to be some work in that area. And there's a couple of other things, but I'd like to see what the committee does first stab at it.
We hit I'm glad you said it, you jogged up something that, it's a historical artifact, and one can do the math and figure out why we have 5 committees. Because, I think there was a time in previous boards where it was very important that everybody had the same number of meetings and such. I, for one, don't have that issue, so I would totally support a structure where there were less committees than 5, and they're staffed, and some people are on, some people have 1 committee on, some people have 0, some people have 2, however we deal. So I just want to put it out there that if it makes sense for the way we structure our business, breaking the cycle of having to have 5 committees because of 5 board members, I would totally support having that change.
Well, also, it's staff time too. It's going to save staff time by having less committees. I agree with everyone as well, because I would like to see we do have so many committees, and so much of the discussions that we have in committee can go straight to the board, and that's what we've been trying to do, more and more streamline, only for those controversial or somewhat detail-oriented committees. I'd also, because there's also liaison committees, so people could be on liaisons. If they're not on one committee, they could be on the liaison committee, that we could spread things around, because there is benefit of being on the liaison committees within the community. So that could almost kind of benefit us in the committee. And then bring the liaison folks could bring things back to the board. So I agree as well.
Question, would the vehicle be proposed rewrite of the guidelines then?
That's kind of what I'm thinking of. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, but that would be, we capture whatever was eventually the consensus of the board.
Because I remember we had a thing about trying to, there was an era where we had to have some policies on how to get things out of committee, because certain controversial subjects would go there to die.
Yeah, those things are actually being here now.
It's not quite being kind
Yeah.
of area.
Well, not only getting them out, but when, at what time do they get referred in?
Right, yeah. So anyway, go forth with Congress.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the only
Who is
other,
external affairs these days?
Pat and Ed,
There you go.
and I'm the alternate. They all have to be involved.
I guess the only other thing we might, I don't know if we'll talk about it real soon, but sometime I don't know if there's anything we need to worry about with wireless devices. I mean, that's, maybe staff has some comments on that.
Yeah, we raised that as an issue
Yeah.
in terms of the, how, remember this is a balance between the way the board conducts its business and access by the public. And this room we eventually want to have as a very stable, very robust wireless hotspot. So if members of the public want to wish to bring an iPad or any kind of wireless device, they can certainly use it. We're also looking, and Carl can comment on this, there's issues that have arisen in California about board members' use of electronic devices while you're at the dais here during a public meeting. I have my iPhone here, and all of a sudden, my daughter texts me, and I innocently say, call me back later, or something like that. Well, about 2 minutes later, maybe Director Duarte picks something up, from his son, and a member in the public is wondering, geez, what's Ed talking about? That's, it leads to some interesting Brown Act issues, so we may want to address that kind of wireless communication.
By any chance, has anybody ever asked them, talk to the city, how, is it possible for them with their laptops to email each other?
Pardon me, is it possible for that?
Probably so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Imagine. And you could always do that with your cell phone anyway, but you could messaging or texting or what have you. Those the tweet. I've heard things that in San Francisco, I don't know if this is just folklore, but that lobbyists would be sitting in another room texting the members, the electeds.
I've heard that too.
That's not, that's obviously contrary to transparency.
I heard one of the managers speak at CASA several weeks ago. He wasn't speaking, we were just talking in the hallway. He says, yeah, I have my board members leave their guns at the door.
Well, there's definitely one way to absolutely assure that you're never even accused of anything.
I shut mine off at least, or I leave it in the car. Because I think it's distracting, especially with them being televised. I think it's, people look at that. I know I look at it. Like I'll go to the city of Dublin, or I'll go to, people are busy checking their voicemails or emails.
It's actually
Distracting.
kind of frustrating because the laptop is so big, there's a couple of heads you can't even see. What are they doing back there behind that screen?
But it's nice to have, be able to look at the board packet. To me, it'd be nice just not to have a board packet anymore.
But I have the same problem I have at work with my 3 screens. See, I've got my little stacks of where things are. You can't do that on a single screen laptop.
Yeah, I think what we would be aiming for in the vision in the future would not be to require board members and staff to use laptops, but to have a system set up to enable you to use laptops or iPads or whatever, if that's in fact what you want to do.
Anyway,
Okay.
external affairs.
Anything else?
Yeah, external affairs will, I imagine
Go
this is
forward.
an iterative process. We'll take some ideas around, come back with a strong proposal, see how it feels, so this will probably take several months to evolve, but I think it'll be a healthy discussion.
It's a great discussion. Okay, so now we're on to 9F.
Yes, and President Benson and members of the board, this is a similar kind of discussion, open-ended here. The focus is perhaps a little bit different. This board correspondence policy is a policy that, again, is reviewed at least every 4 years, as all our policies are. But the board adopted this last time, about this time last year, back in 2019. And when you adopted it, you asked us to live with it for about a year and then bring back any observations we might have for further consideration. The revisions last time around were related to the use of electronic media. As you remember, we had a lot of issues associated with board member correspondence, how staff got correspondence from the public that might come in via email to you, how you might respond to one of your constituents, either individually or as a whole electronically. So that policy was intended to capture all of that. And again, staff put together a list, it looks like the same list before, but attachment number 1 about some observations we picked up over the last year. And just to sort of summarize those very easily, if you think about the flow of correspondence, the correspondence that comes to the board, I think the policy is working very well for that. We have that sort of under control. We have a mailbox isolated for the board. Nancy and her staff checks those before every committee, before every board. That part of the policy is working well. The part of the policy that is not working administratively for us is correspondence from the board. And it's not because there's anything, going on that's, that's not right. It's just we have 4 or 5 board members. Electronic communication happens a lot, almost continuously in this modern world between emails and texts and everything. We don't get all the correspondence that you send out to your constituents, as the policy would say we're supposed to. So this is one of those instances where I think the board needs to look at the policy and say, well, we either need to recommit and do what the policy says, or the policy was a little bit onerous, maybe we wrote it in a way that isn't really workable in the real world. And let's talk about ways we can maybe write a policy that we can apply to. So again, we've pointed out a few things here. We'd like to have an open-ended discussion from you about board correspondence, and again, we'll take that input and pick it up with the External Affairs Committee starting tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right, we'll start down with Director Duarte. Comments?
On paragraph 3, does the board want to continue the mandate as written that all correspondence sent by a board member is forwarded to staff for distribution to all of the board members? I think that probably would continue to work well in that format, in my opinion. Down on the 5th item down, 6th item down, does the board want to require its members to report on all forms of communication? This is not occurring at the present time. I think we probably ought to make that, either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. I think we ought to enforce that if that's necessary.
Okay.
That's all I have for now.
Vice President Leopold. Boy, this one's difficult because I think as a board member, we do have the right to correspond directly with an individual. But on the other hand, I think it's important that the rest of the board knows what's happening, or at least what's being said, because possibly that board member has some piece of information incorrect. And so we'd want to know. I think the only way, well, let me back up. Since this isn't working well, and I could honestly see me forgetting, unless we included one staff person in our response, and so that staff person got all of our emails. But anyway, I noticed something at the city, I don't know, about 6 months ago. And I don't know if this is required from the Brown Act or what, but they have to tell everybody at the beginning of a agenda item that they've had an ex parte communication. Now, I noticed they don't say what they talked about, but they do report that they had one. So I'm not sure if that serves the purpose, if the rest of the board doesn't know what went on, but maybe something of that manner where we would come in and say, okay, on item 9A, I spoke to Mr. Smith and he said this, this, and this, and I responded. It's either that or we send an email, copy of the email to the rest of the board. Now the other thing, excuse me, is that we have to be careful to not respond. Because then we're having a discussion and that's
You
another
have to
one.
be very careful not to respond to all. Be
Yeah.
very, very careful to reply. Be very, very careful with that.
So, I mean, while I do want to know what everybody else is saying, I don't know how we actually enforce that, but I do think it's something that the committee needs to look at. Okay. Dr. Halper?
It's kind of funny because, not politically, but it's communication-wise, I'm going to get Clarence Thomas on the board. I don't communicate a lot, but I personally think correspond a lot. I personally think that, I'm sure I voted on this policy, the requirement to include staff and or other board members with constituent communications seems onerous to me. I certainly would reserve the right to have private communications with anybody in the district or anybody who cares about the district. I haven't had to do that to date. I mean, I've almost always, because typically our communications deal with very factual, technical matters, so it's your best defense is to give them to the staff office and actually get factual responses. But I can envision scenarios where I'm going to want to communicate with somebody and not have.
That gets to the other side of the problem, is you're absolutely correct. I'm an individual representing a certain constituency, and I have the right to speak to them whenever I want to. And I can say whatever I want to.
I mean, so, looking at the actual policy as stated, on page 2 of 3, this is more detail in this discussion, but to me the policy, bullet point 3 stands just fine if you strike everything past the word district or the 2 lines. So basically, the obligation of the director is to make sure that they're not misconstruing the fact that they're speaking with the entire board, and then they can include who they want to in the communication. Just an idea. I mean, I'm not going to go across the railroad tracks on this one. I'm not going to feel super strongly about it, but it seems that would maybe take an administrative burden off the staff, and then frankly, it would take an unenforceable thing out of policy. Because right now, this policy cannot be enforced. There's nothing this body can do to a director, or should be able to do to a director who chooses not to include everybody else on their communications. So long as the director's not purporting to speak with the entire board.
Right.
At that point, we shouldn't fix it like that.
I agree.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Director Howard?
See, actually, from what everyone has said, I don't have much to add. I do agree that we ought to make the policy realistic and enforceable. But I do think there needs to be director judgment in all of this sort of thing. So I think that'll be our task at hand, is trying to come up with a realistic policy.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think you guys have enough input from all of us. Okay, good.
And again, we'll take this up, and I'm sure it'll be a subject of a couple of conversations on this.
Let me ask you this, while we're on this subject, before we run. Now, this is an example of going to committee. So we've got this project that we want to work on over a length of time, and that seems to be the kind of thing that a committee is for.
Yeah.
Working on projects like
There's
this.
some wordsmithing involved, there's gonna be
Right.
some,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to compose text on the fly without a decision.
Right.
So this
Yeah.
is a good committee budget.
Yeah, okay.
In my opinion.
Yeah, just wanted to mention.
And you're good. Okay. Anything else? No, we're almost done. Do you have a question right here?
No, I have one comment. And I don't know whether to refer this to the right committee or just ask somebody to put it on the agenda next time. I would like to see us get a permanent plaque like we have for the board members for the Jim Conan Scholarship.
I think maybe it'll memorialize it for
Yes.
long.
I would propose it does not need to go to committee. As a non-controversial item, no one's going to do spending for.
Sue's still here.
Sue's on it.
You just put it on our to-do list.
Okay, and I have a question too about the rose garden there with the city of Dublin. So do we need to put that on the agenda?
Yeah, that will be on the agenda. Joni promised me she would give me a letter this week that will trigger the process. I would be honored to make that recommendation to the board. Hopefully we'll make that the 16th or 18th of June to do that. Just FYI on that subject, if I could go on a bit, I spoke with a reporter from the Independent today. He was very apologetic for the mistakes, and he took complete responsibility for not quite checking his facts, and he said he's also contacted Claudia McCormick and apologized to her, and he wanted to apologize directly to the district. He was apologizing to me by saying, thank you for on behalf of the district for some of the statements of fact he had. He was legitimately, sure that it is.
I think the editor is hardly ever there anyway, took the day off. Because she knows full well Claudia's not.
I just wanted to correct that.
Okay, well, that's good. Always good. All right, so at this point, board member items. We'll start with Director Howard.
Nothing to discuss.
Okay. Nothing Rich. Director, Vice President Bonito, or Director Roy.
I did attend the liaison meeting, the water district meeting. Quite surprised.
Thank you for doing that, by the way. Thank you for coming.
No problem. It was a little overwhelming for me. I didn't, a lot of subject matter that was covered at a pretty high level. Two items that were covered were the Bay Delta Conservation Plan and kind of a Sacramento update on Governor Brown's attempt to try to get that thing passed. They were looking at a 10-year project. I think they're looking at, what was it, 20. And then I learned something. I had seen reference to the chain of lakes. I had no idea what the chain of lakes was. I found out that it's those quarry pits.
Quarry pits, yeah.
I thought that was kind of a stretch on Weird Lake. But As far as flood control, usage of those chain of lakes, that's one of the things that was a high priority with the neighborhood district who had a representative there, gave us a letter and made a case for making sure that they keep on top of the development of the policy for flood protection. So other than that, it was a very large meeting, quite a few people. Again, very educational.
Okay. And
I'll go ahead. I wanted to make one final comment. At some point, you would allow me a dispensation at the end of the board member comments.
okay.
I thought you were ready to close the meeting, but if you were going to say something.
No, I think I was just going to say our next meeting in June is where Mary is going to be our last meeting here. So we're going to
actually-
make that.
That's actually
Is that
great.
segue?
Great segue, yeah.
Okay.
Tonight
Take
will
it
actually
away.
be the last meeting that the team you see sitting at the dais will all be here together for various reasons. And I want to personally thank each and every one of you for 10 years of support, prodding, and yelling at me, and everything else that you guys do in a normal course of business, basically keeping me in.
We don't have to stop.
And we don't have to stop, and therefore keeping the district on the straight and narrow. And it's been a great 10 years, and I'm going to miss having the team together. And thank you very much.
Good. Good. And I'd like to close the meeting in honor of all those folks in El Reno and in Oklahoma who have gone through so much over the last couple of weeks. And so, in their honor and their memorial, I would like to close the meeting. Meeting adjourned.
We'll carry it over.
I think so.
Do you mind, have some nice heavy hors d'oeuvres?